Welcome to the Mike on Much podcast. I am your host, Mike Veerman, and I am with my friend and producer, Max Kerman.
Hello, how's it going, Mike?
It's going great, Max. How have you been?
Pretty good. I missed you last week, though.
It's true. A week off hurts.
I know, but we saw each other on the weekend.
We did.
we fooling.
So for those of you that have been following the Mike on Much podcast, we recently had to take, we took last week off.
Yeah, they said, cool it, guys.
We don't want to burn through all these episodes in one go.
Yeah, you guys hold your horses.
We want to stretch it out.
Give people a chance to catch up.
Yeah.
So we said, okay.
Fine.
We'll just party on the weekend then.
That was the reason we needed to party. So even though we had this week off, we still decided to get together this weekend.
So there's like a group of 12 of us, or I don't know how many. There's like 15. And sometimes it balloons up to 18.
It grows by the day.
Just like dudes, friends of ours in Hamilton. And they've all been added to our Facebook message group.
Yeah.
The Facebook message group is actually quite handy because it allows everybody to be looped in with the plans. Nobody can say that they didn't know something was happening.
Or were excluded somehow.
Because in the past we've had some
some sensitive grown men.
And we won't mention his name, but he's also on this podcast and he appears later in the show. When Shane has been left out of an event, you will not hear the end of it. He's still bringing up something he wasn't notified about 4 years ago. He was like, do you remember that key to Bala 4 years ago? Old Shaney boy wasn't there. So it was just a bunch of dudes hanging out this week. And we started our weekend at a very kind of exclusive place. It felt very exclusive to me.
Yeah, no, me too. I'd never been there before.
The Thompson Hotel in Toronto.
Specifically the Thompson pool.
Yeah, the rooftop pool.
Yeah.
And that place is like Miami Beach.
So through a friend of ours, Adam Burchell, he's moved in there recently.
Adam is probably the swankiest guy we know. Adam loves $1 million.
Not the song by the Bare Naked Ladies.
He probably loves that too, though.
Who doesn't?
The concept of $1 million is so satisfying to Adam. We went on a trip for our friend Julian's. We mentioned Julian. He got kicked out of the Key to Bala.
For those of you that have been regular listeners.
Yeah. We went on Julian's bachelor trip. It was a tour of the South. And we were somewhere drunkenly stumbling around the streets of Nashville. And Adam says to Matt Savelli and I, he says, you know what? It's ridiculous that we're not all millionaires right now. But Burchell's a dreamer, and I love Burchell. Burchell, didn't come from much, and he's now a self-made man.
He's living in the penthouse at the Thompson.
He's living at the penthouse, yeah, exactly.
And he can invite some friends over for a dip in the pool.
So it was a scene.
So Max and I are in Hamilton. We decided to drive out to Toronto and hang out at this pool. Shane actually is already in the pool and has been drinking since 1.
Yeah, you can bring down your own alcohol. That's the trick. That's how you keep it cheap at the Thompson. The Thompson Hotel, if they're listening to this.
Yeah, no, that's the trick. You bring vodka in a thermos.
You bring vodka in a thermos and nobody gives you a hard time.
So Max and I get in there at about 4?
Yeah, it was about 4 o'clock.
It was very hot. We jump in the pool. Within 2 minutes, you're recognized by a guy in a Miller Lite hat.
Yeah, Dan. Really nice guy. Works for Miller. So if you're listening, Dan, send those coupons over to my place. But you should say, we didn't quite just take off our shirts and jump in the pool.
No.
We got there and we looked around and it was the cast of Magic Mike was hanging out around the pool.
It was incredibly intimidating. We're going to take our shirts off. Yeah, it's I'm a doughy mess and I'm standing next to the Bachelor or something.
Yeah.
So we buck it up, we take our shirts off, we get in the pool, we get laughed at. Max makes friends with the guy from Miller Lite. And then we have some dinner. We decide to go back to Hamilton. So now
because the rest of the guys are there kind of waiting for us.
Yeah. All the guys from the Facebook group are waiting for us in Hamilton. They want to have a Saturday night. So we meet up with all the guys and we're all talking about the next bachelor trip because our friend Mike D.
Who plays in Arkells, he's about to get married sometime this winter, and
that's the next big bachelor.
That's
trip.
the next big.
But there's already been 3.
Yeah, so let's run us through which bachelor trips have happened.
The infamous 2013 Cuba,
because it was the first bachelor trip. I thought all bachelor trips were a week long into Cuba or somewhere really far away because it was the first one I've ever been on.
Yeah,
I told friends that they're usually a bachelor trip is maybe 2 or 3 days and it's usually somewhere close. It's you go to a cottage.
The point is we overindulge on these trips.
Yeah, because we're just looking for a chance to hang out with each other.
That's right. Yeah. Second trip, Las Vegas.
Yeah, classic bachelor trip move. It was our friend Mike M, otherwise known as Jug. It was his choice. He's getting married in a couple weeks, and so we went to Vegas. And that was actually just before we went to LA to interview Tim McAuliffe.
It's a good callback.
Yeah, good callback. And then the most recent one is Julian, where we went on a tour of the South. And now we have to start planning for
Mike D.
Mike D's. And now The problem is that I think that with the first 2-3 bachelor trips, the girlfriend's like, okay, go do your thing, have fun with your friends. But it's like we're looking kind of down the line of people that are kind of over the age of 28 who might be getting married at some point in the next few years. And there's literally like 16 more of these happening.
And the guys can't wait.
And the guys cannot wait. And it's eating up everyone's vacation time.
Yeah.
So I guess the question, Mike, for you is what's the amount each person should be spending on? Like what should it cost, the bachelor trip?
Oh,
is there a number that we can?
I don't know. I guess it's a different number for different people.
Yeah.
I mean, for a week.
At the worst resort in Cuba.
Yeah, we went to a 2-star in Cuba, and
Which is a half-star everywhere else.
The pavilion where we got our beer and the sandwiches stunk like shit.
Like literally smelled like shit.
Yeah, we called it the shit pavilion. We can say that on this podcast, right?
Yeah. Club Kwama gonna sue us?
No, they're a sponsor of this podcast, actually. The Mike and Much podcast is brought to you by the ham sandwiches at the Shit Pavilion. I just like saying Shit Pavilion.
Shit Pavilion.
I don't know how much is an acceptable amount.
I don't know.
Or even time. Do you go for a week? Do you go for 4 days? I just want to hang out with my friends.
Yeah, we just want to hang out with our pals.
All right, let's get to Josh Groban. Mm-hmm. So Josh Groban was an interview that actually came through what we call the car wash at Much. So basically, Josh was doing E-Talk, he was doing The Social, all of these legitimate shows. And then Josh was kind enough to agree to do the Mike on Much podcast.
Because he's a pro and he has a hard time saying no, I guess.
And this is an interesting interview because, Max, I think you were on tour. You were out of town.
I couldn't be there for this one.
You couldn't be there for this one, but you were excited about Josh Groban.
I was very excited about Josh Groban. I feel like he's done a lot in his young life.
He's an interesting guy. I mean, obviously, he wears a few hats. He's an actor. He's a singer.
He flies a plane, as we'll learn.
Actually, one thing, Max, about this interview is because you couldn't be there, when Max isn't there, what we'll do is we'll get Shane to sort of like produce, we'll bump him up. So basically, it ends up being me and Shane sitting in the room. Because normally it would be like Max and Max is very engaging. He'll loosen up the guest, and then I get in there with the questions. So we're like, Shane, you're promoted, And as you'll find out, this has happened for a couple of other interviews, which you'll hear in other episodes. So Shane and I are sitting there, and we're in this boardroom, and we're waiting for Josh Groban to come in. He's doing all his other press, and we're waiting there, and we're waiting there. About 10 minutes pass, and Shane goes, "Hey," and I'm like, "What?" He's like, "What do you think Josh Groban is worth?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know. I didn't really think about it." And he's like, "Man, I'd love to know." I'm like, "All right, let's look it up." So we look it up. It's a lot of money. It's like $30 million or something online. I don't know if that's true or not. So anyway, we do the interview, we finish it, goes great. And afterwards I call Max because he always wants the post-mortem. It's like, how'd the interview go? What happened? And the first thing I say is like, Max, guess how much Josh Groban's worth?
And then I said, $1 billion? I don't know really how money works, generally speaking. I might have said $500 million.
Yeah, I don't know if it was $1 billion, but you way overshot it.
$500 million.
What do you think he does? He could own a sports team with that kind of money.
Because I'm a little bit of a gossip queen myself. I said, do you think we can talk about Kat Dennings? Because, they're dating. And I guess we were told we weren't allowed to ask any questions about
It was
Kat
the only
Dennings.
thing off limits.
And it made me think, Mike, if you were in Josh Groban's position, you're sort of a public, high-profile guy, how comfortable would you be talking about your personal life? What's your stance on that?
It's a good question. I personally, here's the one thing too. You never know where a relationship's at. It can be uncomfortable if you go to a dinner party and someone asks about your girlfriend and things aren't going well.
That's true.
It's like you don't know where people are at, and it's kind of like weird fodder. But it is interesting, and people are interested. Here's the other thing: if you're Josh Groban and you're like, I'm here promoting my record, or I'm talking about this movie that I'm in. He's like, if everything becomes about this relationship, it's like,
yeah, it's sort of taking away from his job and why he's really there. Yeah,
but you're also a public personality, and I guess you're selling a part of yourself, but maybe not.
You know what? If
everyone's allowed to make their own lines, Max.
That's true.
How would you feel if people ask you that sort of question?
It's a good question. Yeah, I on a certain level, I feel like it comes with the territory of being like a celebrity, especially if you choose to date another celebrity. It's like you're kind of asking for it a little bit, and you're compensated really well for your job. So if a little snot-nosed podcaster wants to ask you about it.
That was the original name of the podcast, the Snot-Nosed Podcast.
Yeah. Then just roll with it, baby. But you didn't ask about Kat Dennings.
No.
Because you're a gentleman, Mike. And I felt we got a ton out of the interview. And you know what? The thing for me listening back to this interview, which I liked about it so much, is that Groban is a very self-aware guy. Like you can tell he's sort of like thought about his place in the world, how he's been very fortunate and very lucky, also how hard he works. Like I feel like sometimes when you see interviews with other people, that have reached the level of fame that Josh Groban has, they become so accustomed to their lifestyle that it doesn't seem miraculous to them in any way. It's become so normalized. But I think he also understands like just sort of how the stars have to align to become that 30 million heir guy. Sorry, what would you call
30 millionaire? You'd say he's worth $30 million.
I wanted it to sound way smoother than that.
How do you become a 30 millionaire?
As I was saying that, I was looking at Mike. I was like, how is this sounding coming out of my mouth?
And I didn't know where you were going, so I just kept staring into your eyes.
We're just like locking eyes as I'm saying this nonsense.
Let's get to Josh Groban.
Hey Josh, I'm Shane.
Nice to meet you, Shane.
I'm Mike.
Nice to meet you,
Josh.
Where's the recorder? Right here?
Right
yeah,
perfect. How's it been? You been going all day?
Yeah, I've been going all day today and yesterday too, and the day before, and the last 2 months. It's been great. Glad to be back in Toronto. It's a great city, and wish I were here longer.
Yeah. Just for the couple days, or
just for the couple days. Yeah. Flying out again this afternoon, but it's been a grind. A lot of early mornings. I'm a night owl, so anytime you have to sing, at 6 a.m, you're kind of psyching yourself out. Think that you're warm. Yeah.
Like trying to force yourself to go to sleep so that you can be fresh.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's
exactly.
difficult. We were very excited to talk today because despite your success at such an early age, you've always been known as sort of very down to earth and self-aware. That seems to be very rare, for people who become sort of wildly successful
Sure.
in their teens. Can you talk a bit about your folks and where that sort of comes from, that mentality?
Yeah, sure. I'm glad you brought up my folks because I have such a great sounding board in them, and I've got such a great kind of down to earth family. I've got the greatest brother in the world who's just so much smarter than I am, and he's just kind of keeps it real with me all the time. And,
older or younger?
Younger.
Oh, wow.
4 years to the day. We have the same birthday, 4 years apart. So we had to learn to share very, very early. Yeah, I got a baby brother on my 4th birthday, which at the time really sucked. But
you got 4 years alone though, at least.
I did. I got 4 years just to shine, and then we had to share. And my parents are not stage parents. They love the arts and love. Are very proud and all that, of course, and have a great time coming to shows and stuff like that. But they get starstruck, like everyone else. They will tell me if they think something hasn't been my best, or if they think that something is just kind of made me leave planet Earth for a minute. Mm-hmm. They keep my feet firmly planted on the ground, and so I try to surround myself with friends and other, music colleagues that like to live on planet Earth too.
Yeah.
So, but the other thing is too, I think the genre of music that I make. Is so high pressure from a technical standpoint. It demands so much training and things like that really there wasn't a lot of time for the party scene and going and just kind of a lot of people who get like a hit song very early on. The song is on the radio doing all the work for them like all day every day, so they can go out and they can party and they can burn the candle at both ends.
Right.
When you have to like physically be there and sing all the time. You really learn from a very early age like how much the work ethic has to come into play in order to be successful. So I think that that also, I think in retrospect, was good that I wasn't kind of thrown right into the hype party scene early on. I wasn't ever like the it guy. I was selling more than everyone else, but I wasn't like the hyped darling.
Right.
So I think in retrospect that was a good thing.
Interesting. You were saying, your parents are very sort of down to earth. I believe your mother was a teacher.
Yeah, my mom was a junior high art school teacher, and she kind of became full-time mom when my brother and I were born. But now she's doing great design work, and she's also working very, very hard on behalf of my foundation, my arts foundation. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, at a young age, were your parents sort of always into sort of like entertainment? Did they play instruments? Was there music around the house all the time?
There was always music around the house. My mom is a visual artist, so she would paint sometimes. My dad plays trumpet, or he played trumpet through college. He put it away to become a business guy, but every now and then he'd play the trumpet. But he always played piano throughout the house. We had a piano in the house, and he would just always it was just blues and C. He just always play and C. And I got my ear from him though. I learned to play by ear from him, and And so, that, and then great records, just great songs, and being pulled to great shows. When you live in LA, you can either choose to kind of stay in front of your TV all day, or you can get in the car and drive out. And so I really give my parents so much credit for pulling my brother and I to the music center to see opera and classical music and that kind of thing, because it got us buzzing at an early age. Yeah.
You were saying you had a piano in the house. Were you sort of immediately drawn to the piano? Is that something that came naturally?
Immediately. Like when I was in diapers, I would still crawl up onto the stool and I would just bash out these complicated melodies just because I was just putting my fist on the keys,
Yeah.
But no, it was an outlet for me, really. That and the drums. I would go home after a tough day at school or whatever, and I would play, and I didn't realize that what I was doing was writing music. To me, it was just exercising the demons. But I realized later in life that, like, okay, well, you can write. Like, that's what you're doing, is you're coming up with melodies off the top of your head, structure that, and then that's writing a song. So no, I'm glad that I kind of taught myself the piano when I was younger, because it served me well.
Do you remember the first song you ever wrote? Your first original?
First song I ever wrote. Yeah, actually, I do. I made an album with Rick Rubin 4 years ago now, and there's an instrumental on that record called "Wandering Kind," and that is a melody that was my first melody that I ever wrote when I was a kid, and I just have always remembered it, and I just thought, what, let's do something with this, and so I brought it back out, and we kind of did a great kind of folk arrangement around it, and put it on the record. And that's always fun.
How was working with Rick Rubin?
It's great. He's a brilliant, interesting, complicated guy, and
right.
And a wonderful ear, and a wonderful producer, in that he really gets the artist in a headspace for them to create their own greatness. He's not a do it for you kind of producer. He's not gonna push the buttons for you. But what he will do is he'll provide you with the right inspiration. He'll get you listening to the right things, and he'll get you with the right musicians to really kind of craft something that feels exceedingly personal. He will make your most personal record. And so for that reason, it was a blast to work with him.
Now, movies, TV, you're a legit actor. Not many big-time musicians can pull that off.
Thanks.
Growing up, did you have favorite sort of actors or films that sort of stood out, things that you were really into?
I was a child of the 80s, so, I grew up kind of watching things like Dark Crystal and Labyrinth and things like that, all the great kind of musical. Yeah, but the power. And, I remember getting a VHS copy of Sunday in the Park with George, with Bernadette Peters and Mandy Patinkin, when I was like 9 years old. And that's what kind of first gave me the bug for musical theater, was watching that. But, remember the days we had to rewind? You probably weren't around for those
we're
days.
the same age.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I remember Mandy Patinkin and Chicago Hope.
Chicago Hope. And I remember
Peters,
thinking, this is such a better show than ER.
Yes!
And I was thinking, God, this is the show I'm going to watch.
Yeah.
And then ER became the thing. And
that was the one.
Darn it.
I stuck with Chicago Hope.
Me too. I stuck with
like
it till the end. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I watched a lot of artsy stuff. My parents brought home a lot of really fun stuff for me to watch.
As far as like acting, is there any sort of roles or genres that you want? Like, would you want to do a sci-fi, or sort of, do you lean more towards comedy or drama?
I want to play a villain.
Yeah, I was wondering.
I think that'd be really fun. Like, I like playing the bizarro version of myself in things. Like, they always kind of have me playing like the kind of the over the top, asshole, which is fun, because I sat behind that guy in high school, my whole life. So, it's great when I can do kind of slapsticky stuff, which is great. But I would love at some point to like put on like tons of crazy Marvel makeup or whatever, and just play like the worst villain of all time, and just be completely unrecognizable. That would be fun.
Do you sort of consider yourself like, I'm a musician first, and then acting is this thing that I love doing as well, or do you see them on par, sort of?
No, I think if I'm honest with myself, I would have to say that music is my first kind of knack. It's what I know best. With acting, it's about telling a story and diving into that character, and I love it because it takes it away from the solo spot, and you can really kind of dive into character work and work with the cast, and it's what I love about theater too. But no, every time I've had opportunities to do more acting than music, I've always been pulled more in the direction of, but then I wouldn't be able to tour, or but then I wouldn't be able to make another record. And so my instincts have always brought me back to singing, because ultimately I think singing and making music is what I'm here to do.
You were mentioning the Mandy Patinkin and Bernadette Peters film that got you into sort of like musical theater, that sort of genre. It seems like most teenagers growing up, they sort of listen to pop, rock, hip hop.
Yeah.
I mean, were you always sort of drawn to the world of like operatic pop?
I liked it all. Truly,
theater?
I really had such an open mind. I was also buying Nirvana and Pearl Jam 10, Arrested Development, and all this, and
Mr. Wendell's classic.
Yeah, Mr. Wendell's a classic. Game of Horseshoe, and I was into the grunge thing. I was Brian Green Day and all that stuff, and I was going to those concerts, and I got caught up in the ska thing, when that was a huge.
Yeah.
It was like I listened to everything else. It was just that this was a world I really liked too, and even though I loved that stuff, I knew that drums were the only way I was going to perform that stuff. So I bashed out on the drums to those bands, every day. But as a vocalist, I knew that what I wanted to do was still tell those stories, and I knew that what I was meant to do was to, really have more of a traditional style of singing and to act and sing at the same time. I think as much as I loved, that rhythm and that energy, there's nothing I enjoyed more than really telling those stories with that kind of singing.
Did you ever, consider starting a band on the drums, or did you start any sort of garage bands?
No, I never did really. I mean, I played with guys in school. We would jam every now and then at lunch breaks and things like that. But no, generally it was kind of a solo thing. I would just kind of plug in my earphones and play along to it, all sorts of things.
Did your brother ever want to get into it, or
My brother plays guitar and he plays saxophone. And we would jam every now and then too.
Yeah.
He would come up with his guitar and we would play. But
is he ever trying to get on the road with you and get up?
He's come on the road because he's a director, so he's behind the scenes.
Amazing.
So he's somebody who's always seen the world through a lens, and he's just went to USC Film School, and his thing has always been about capturing things. He's very visual, so that's something that I'm not good at all. So we kind of yin and yang in that way. And I've written music for one of his movies, and he's directed one of my music videos, and it's nice that we can kind of collab that way. And he's doing great. So. No, I think for him, the performance side of things is just truly just for his own enjoyment.
You mentioned in another interview how some great singers have no formal sort of vocal training.
Right.
Do you have a favorite singer, who maybe isn't conventionally sort of trained or great, but you still love to listen to?
Probably Bjork. I think somebody who just kind of has a wild voice, and somebody who may very well have had traditional voice training. If she has, I don't know about it, but I have a feeling she hasn't. I just have a feeling that she's just. And I've watched videos from her singing. She was a child star in Iceland. She would sing on things when she was a kid, and she just had that. There was something about it that just had a pathos to it, and she's she's an incredible interpreter. She just does zany things with her voice that no voice teacher would say to do, and she does it. So I am all for voice training. I can't do what I do without great voice training, and technique is everything. But then I also love those voices that are kind of off the beaten path, and are a little bit fringy, and are instantly recognizable.
We were talking a bit about basketball, and I always find, when someone does what you do at your level, it does take, like you're saying, you can't do what you do without the training.
Right.
And you hear about great basketball players, whatever. They're 10,000 hours of practice.
Sports and music are so similar that way. Mm-hmm. The nerves, the clutch that you need to have, and it's and the training that you need to have. People ask, I got a question today. Well, you're such a great singer. Why do you need training? LeBron is a coach. You need people to have your back that way, and you need people to get you out of your own head. It's more coaching that truly at this level is more of a mental thing than a physical thing.
Interesting.
We all know how to do it. I know how to sing. I can go out onto any stage and sing these songs. It's about the headspace. It's about making sure that you're mentally there so that you can focus and be in the zone no matter where you're at. Because anytime your ability is because of your body, your brain controls all of that. And human beings are imperfect, and we get stressed and we get nervous, and we have light sides and dark sides. And I think the best purpose of a coach is that whatever's going on outside the court or outside the stage, that person can zone you in to perform at your best level for that moment.
Do you personally enjoy sort of the training and the steps, or do you see it as sort of a necessary thing to get you on the stage? Is it like...
No, it's not enjoyable. Training's not enjoyable. It's like going to the gym. Some people love it. I don't love it. But you do it to be strong,
Yeah.
And you do the scales because you know that when you're out there and you're feeling like crap one day, that the technique will take over and that you'll know what you're doing. And then you also learn from experience that when you haven't sung for a couple months, or if you haven't shot three free throws for a couple months or whatever, you go out there and you go, oh crap, what am I, this feels foreign to me after just 2 months of not doing it.
Yeah.
So you have to keep it up. And it is a grind. That's where the work is in the training, truly. The part that's not fun is the training, so that when you go out on stage, it is fun, and you are in control, and you are reaching an audience in a way that you never thought possible.
Because you're not thinking about it, you're not in your
No,
head.
you're just doing it. The
mechanics take over.
Exactly right. You're out there and you're just enjoying that moment with the audience.
So the behind the scenes of an album rollout, and obviously Stages came out, I believe, last month. Yeah. Is always really interesting to me. I mean, after the final mix is complete, there's album art, rehearsal, tour, various promo needs to be done. I guess you've been doing this a long time, but I mean, what parts are sort of the most stressful for you in that process?
I think honestly, the promo is harder than the tour because you're constantly traveling around. You have to sing at peak level. Sometimes at hours in the morning that no human being should have to sing at that
Most
that
people
level.
can't talk at that.
Yeah,
time.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So depending on jet lag, sometimes you get 8 hours, sometimes you get 1. And but audiences aren't listening for that. They're just listening, about whether or not you sound good or not. Then they're going to tweet you either you're great or you suck. So it's a very high pressure thing, and so that's where you really have to focus the most. I think is when you're doing international press, and then also having to sing on that level as well. That's once you get through that period, then you can kind of enjoy the rest of the ride, and then you're kind of doing your victory lap.
Right. So this is that's the work part.
That's the work part. Yeah,
promo.
totally.
Yeah.
With the exception of this conversation, of course, which is a complete joy.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. Likewise. So, I mean, with all of that, like throughout your process when you're writing music, when you're recording music, sort of like getting ears and eyes on things like album artwork, have you traditionally had like people or someone that you lean on? I mean, for all of those things?
Yeah, it's a team effort. I mean, my face is on the front, my name is on the front, but there's 20, 30 people, if not 100, that are within and that's including the recording team, the producers, the musicians that were on this record, the arrangers who don't always get the credit for making these extraordinary arrangements on this record, but then the record label team, the incredible people who are grinding every single day to make sure that the images are right and that the press is set up right and that everything else is there, so that I can all I have to do is show up and knock the duck down.
Yeah.
But the footwork that goes into setting up a record release, setting up all those things, it's why the thank you page is just tiny. You got to fit everything in because there are so many people to thank, and you just absolutely couldn't do it without them. So no, I get to go out on the playground and I get to play, but it's because of so much work that's been put into building it before I show up.
Speaking of arrangers and musicians, do you sort of prefer to work with the same people over and over, or do you like to sort of experience like a wide variety?
It's a mix. I there's definitely a shorthand with people well, and there's a certain amount of if it ain't broke, don't fix it with people you work well with. David Foster and I did 3 albums together. Working with Umberto Gatica and Bernie Herms was amazing this time around. I'd love to do another album with them. And then sometimes it's like an actor working with different directors. Sometimes you just need to expand your horizons, learn new things, and frankly kind of get scared again. Like find ways to get a little more on edge in there. Not knowing kind of where it's going to lead is a healthy thing, especially as you're approaching your 6th and 7th and 8th record.
Yeah.
You don't want to feel too comfortable because then you get bored, your audience gets bored. So it's a little bit of both, but I'd say mostly you want to work with people that get you, and then every now and then you want to work with someone who throws you 100 curveballs like Rick Rubin.
Get out of the comfort zone.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Totally.
when some of the big stuff happens.
Yeah.
In talking to you about sort of like training, it seems like you appreciate the notion of like sort of working hard, be it on your singing, writing, obviously doing press,
Sure.
the training we're talking about.
Yeah.
Can you sort of describe your attitude or philosophy when it comes to, this job of being like Josh Groban, This is like sort of your livelihood. What's your philosophy? How do you sort of approach it?
Well, I mean, anytime you're promoting you, and you're promoting a you that is a musician and so with that comes marketing and branding and things like that. It can be a tricky balance. Like, how much do you keep for yourself? How much is just your private you? And I keep things for the most part pretty open. But I keep my personal life pretty private. I think it's just something that I think keeps me sane and keeps that side of it just kind of protected a little bit, just so it can live and breathe on its own. But the interesting thing about being signed when you're really young is that you're kind of forced into being a student and a pro at the same time, and you don't really know, quite frankly, at 17 or 18 or 19, or some people even through their 20s. Who you really are, what you want to be, who you want to say you are, what you want to be as a human being. So when I got signed, I was signed as kind of this great big voice, and loved the music that I was recording and still love it. But I don't think I was I was still incubating, I think, as a person. And I think that there's a great many years when you first start where you feel like you're kind of learning as you go, and you kind of have to go out there and fake a certain confidence because inside you're just still figuring it all out. And I think the nice thing about the last 5 years or so is that I feel like I've finally taken ownership of it. Like, I know who I am. I feel comfortable going in and being super serious about the music. I feel comfortable going and doing really weird comedy stuff. Like I feel comfortable showing the different sides now, not being afraid that it's going to be off-brand or it's going to be, turn some people off. I just, at this point, I just like being me. And if people are along for it, then great.
When you did sign that deal, do you remember thinking like, oh my goodness, like I'm signing a record? Or did you have sort of like, was there a little bit of trepidation? Were you...
Oh, there was very little trepidation, honestly. Well, because I knew David for a couple of years before that happened. So David Foster and I had done a lot of things. We'd sung at a lot of charity events.
How did you guys connect?
We connected through a voice teacher when I was 16. And
did you seek out a voice teacher? Were you like sort of like an ambitious, like you were like, I want a teacher?
No, I was working with a school buddy's dad who happened to be a voice teacher and heard me sing in a choir and said, hey, I want to give you lessons for free.
Wow.
And so I would go he lived down the street. And so I was working with him, and he happened to know David, and David called him and said, who have you got who's young who can sing? He sent in 5 tapes of 5 singers he was working with, and I was the tape he picked. And, so that's how I met David Foster. And it could have been just that one event, and it turned into 15 years, but that's the universe for you. And that's any of us who've been lucky enough to have that great kind of coming out in the industry. I think attributed to that one person that said, hey, I believe in you, and it was serendipity for sure.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned your mother is a visual artist.
Yeah.
Outside of music, acting, your charitable sort of things, are there other things that people might be surprised that you're sort of into? Or things that you might want to explore in the future?
It's so funny because music was like my hobby it's been my only hobby. When I wasn't making music, I'd make music for fun. But I'm starting to, I play tennis. I like to play tennis.
Oh, yeah.
Love sports. Love hockey. Can't play it for shit, but I love watching it.
You're appealing to the Canadians right now.
Oh well, it's true. It's just the greatest sport. It's awesome. But I'm getting my pilot's license, working on that. Getting up in the air, and that's kind of a different change of pace for my brain.
Fly those like small planes.
Yeah, small, just a Cirrus or Cessna.
That's terrifying to me.
Flying was terrifying for me as a passenger. It's much more terrifying looking out the side window than it is looking out the front window because you can't control it.
Oh,
you're looking at things are going by so fast. You're going and things are bumping, and you're seeing the wing do it. When you're in the cockpit, you can actually read the instruments and see, oh, nothing is actually wrong with the plane. We're fine. Oh, we're still at 10,000 feet. We've not actually dropped.
It gives you a measure of confidence.
It gives you a measure of confidence that the plane is actually doing what it's supposed to do. And so learning how to fly has made me a much better passenger because now I know, how incredible these machines are and really how in little danger we are when we're up there. But yeah.
So you're going to be a pilot in the next few years?
And I've got 30 hours left. I've done 30 hours, now I've got 30 hours left, and I'll dedicate a few months to it, and then I'll hopefully be flying from gig to gig.
Yeah,
Gotta get to know Canadian airspace a little
I'll
better.
fly myself, it's cool.
Yeah, Travolta did it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so
that's true.
Yeah.
I guess lastly, talent and hard work are extremely important sort of building blocks for anyone in your line of work. I guess outside of those, what are sort of the intangibles, or approach that has allowed you to be so successful for so long?
Some of it comes down to, I'm a bit of an overthinker. So, my career kind of developed an accidental formula. When I first got signed, nobody was expecting it sell more than 100,000 records, maybe worldwide. Maybe we break even. And what do you know? People had an emotional, visceral connection to it. And then, you go into the next record and you get songs, people sending you songs because it's a formula, because it sold 5 million records. We want to write Josh Groban songs. So then you go through a stack of stuff that just feels like a copy of a copy of a copy, and then you go, nope, got to start from moment one. Pretend you haven't released anything. Pretend you're that scared kid who's not expecting to sell anything, and make that record again. And really, you kind of have to do that record after record after record. Every time you've raised a bar for yourself success-wise, the main thing truly is to not, live in it too much. It's, I hate to say don't celebrate it too much, but you can celebrate for a minute. But then you got to find that place again of vulnerability. You got to find that place again where you're not afraid to fail, because once you've had success, it's way scarier, the prospect of failing, than it was before you had success.
It's hard to go back.
It's way harder to go back than to stay where you were. So really, truly, you have to go with the goosebump meter when you're in there and don't think about formula. Don't think about the stack of songs that people think is what people want to hear from me. You got to find that place of what got you there in the first place every single time. And I would say to any artist that's in the business, make your first record that way, make your last record that way. It's the artists that I've been lucky enough to work with or meet that have been in the industry for 50, 60 years who are just absolute, have every right to live in that legendary mythology, don't. they're heralded by every award, they've had every success under the sun. But when you're in a room with them, all they want to talk about is what's next. All they want to talk about is what they haven't done yet. And I think that's the key to anybody who's been around for a long time, is I think to always have that fire and to always have that humility that, even if you're 70 or 80 and just one of the greatest artists of all time, just the feeling of yourself that you could still let yourself down, is really important. And I've been in this business. We've chucked a lot of fads. We've beaten a lot of odds, and I've seen a lot of artists come and go that were the hottest thing one minute and then not. And I'm perfectly happy to kind of be under the radar a little bit and just kind of keep doing things our way. So I think that's a good path to have.
It's a great way to close it.
Cool.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Shane, how's it going?
Oh, life's a roller coaster.
You had that line canned.
I did, because I knew he was going to ask it. Because usually I say good or bad, but now it's a roller coaster.
And it's just a roller coaster.
Shane is actually wearing an Arkells shirt right now. It's a supportive friend.
Yeah, supportive or a thief.
Accusations are flying.
You were too bombed to even realize what happened that night.
No, you know what? So the Arkells keep a lot of their merch at my place, and so whenever anybody comes over to my place, they leave with an Arkell shirt. Everyone sweats through their clothes, like on a summer day, and then they just like, oh, I have a new T-shirt.
And then they leave you money for the shirt, right?
No, that never happens. They just go, I'm promoting the band, Max. It's a fair trade, right? Like your brother just kind of is like decked out head to toe in Arkell's like merchandise. But it's like whenever it's like a laundry day.
Yeah, I don't even know where he got the Arkells jogging pants, but he comes into work in the full suit sometimes, like the hat, the sweater, the zip up, and the jogging pants.
Yeah, whenever anybody's wearing Arkell's merch, they just like, then they see me, they just smile with a little guilt in their eye.
Yeah. Will you ever ask for the money?
No, I don't care.
You're off the hook, Shane.
Yeah.
In my defense, though, I was kicked out of a bar for wearing a tank top. Like, people who don't know what I look like, I'm very ripped with a bunch of tattoos. So I kind of look like, I'm not ripped, but I kind of look like a gang member or whatever. So I was being profiled because I was asked to leave, but a bunch of other guys without tattoos got to continue wearing their jerseys or their tank tops.
Yeah, the tank top rule is so annoying. Like when we were on this bachelor trip in Memphis, our friend Peak, Matt McPeak, who's half black, he's wearing this like nice, Peak's like the hottest guy you've ever seen.
Thanks a lot.
He's like this beautiful, he kind of looks like a darker John Stamos or something like that. He
reminds me of a darker James Franco.
Oh, really? Yeah. There you go. Two hot guys. And he's wearing this like tightly fitted like white t-shirt, and we're all going to this bar. The bouncer goes, "You can't wear a white t-shirt in here." Like, as
you've established we're in the South?
Yeah, we're in the South too, right? We're in Memphis. And Peak's like, he's not wearing some like long, big t-shirt that are sometimes affiliated with like gang members. He's wearing this like nicely fitted shirt. And either way, the rule is stupid. Let me just say that.
Clearly he was being racially profiled.
Totally. So anyway, the bouncer goes, "You can't wear that." And Peak's like, "Well, okay. I have this blue tank top underneath the shirt. Is that fine?" He's like, "No, you can't wear a tank top either." And so Peak takes off the tank top, puts it over top of the white shirt. He looks like he's like a basketball player in like the early 90s.
But he still looked awesome.
But he still looked awesome.
Which is a testament to Peak.
And they let him in that way.
Right.
And then Mike D was there, and he got so mad at the racial profiling that was happening. That
Mike D, the guitarist in your band.
Yeah, exactly. And he stormed out of the bar, and then we had to
The bar did suck very badly,
Yeah.
though, and we were looking for an excuse to leave. So we were like, this racism's ridiculous. And then,
It was really just the bar sect?
yeah.
We're making a stand.
If it was an awesome bar with babes everywhere, we definitely would have stayed. This racist bar is amazing.
So, what have you been up to?
Just enjoying my new Arkell's shirt.
Oh, back to the Arkells shirt. You're still defending.
Well, it's an Arkell's theme, kind of, because Max has been sending me a lot of songs, and I don't know if you guys have heard, I've got a new lady friend.
Whoa! That's
You guys
great news
stop
for the podcast. We both knew
It's
this.
like it's all you talk about.
So there's a weird Max connection,
Oh, a Max connection.
which is part of the reason why I wore this stolen shirt today. It's all connected.
Okay.
So a girl that I played basketball with once, 2 years ago, matched with me on Tinder. She's from Hamilton. And I'm like, okay, another hot blonde, whatever, put her in the pile. And she's like, oh, how did I miss you or whatever? I'm like, oh, we've actually played basketball together. She's like, oh, here's my number. Instantly gives me her number, like right away. And I text her, hey, it's Shane. And then she's like, hey, if you're ever in Hamilton, message me. I'm like, okay. Then I don't message her because I haven't been in Hamilton. And then she sends me a long message like, hey, I've realized I may have a better connection for you. My cousin, Alex. She's like, oh, you directed my cousin in a music video. It's the Where You Goin' video that I actually did direct.
Yeah, Shane. For our listeners, Shane directed the 80s inspired, Ferris Bueller's Day Off inspired Where You Going music video. It's really
Which
good.
was tweeted by Cameron Crowe.
Wait, Cameron Crowe loves it.
Yes.
And and if you want to see what Shane's girlfriend looks like, she's in the video in bed with Max.
Yes, she's his love interest in it.
I'm just letting our listeners know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyways, I'm like, if that's her, hell yes. Yada, yada, yada. We go on our first date, like instantly. Like I hook it up. I make the trip to Hamilton. Max and a couple of my friends picked out my outfit.
Yeah, you came out like 4 times out of the bathroom like, well, how's this, guys?
Yeah, the first date went amazing. Banged her. No. No, but yeah. No, it went very, very well. And yeah, now, she says we're in like with each other.
Ooh.
What does that mean?
I think it's like as much as you can possibly like someone without being.
Have you been like dancing around
No.
the love word? No, saying just like, I love spending time with you.
No, Max. No one does that.
Really?
If you guys could see the face Max makes as he's saying that, is the funniest thing.
I'm in love with our dates.
No.
He's shaking his fingers. He's moving his head.
No, I'm trying not to scare her. This time I'm playing it totally cool.
Playing it slow and cool by
Yeah.
talking about it on a national podcast.
Yeah. Well, you guys, you're going to have to send me the heavily edited version. But our relationship's been about 2 weeks, but now she's been in Portugal for 2 weeks.
Just banging hot Portuguese guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, her cousin's texting you. Teasing me about her making out with people, and it is literally not literally, it's the wrong word, making me go on an emotional roller coaster.
So that's why it's been a roller coaster for you lately.
Yes.
Have you watched any movies with her?
Not a lot of watching going on, a lot of making out.
So yes, this is exciting. So Shane, we're very excited for you. You have a new girlfriend. You have a new Arkells t-shirt.
Yep. I don't know what I love more.
Did you?
I mean, like more.
Yeah.
Wait.
Oh.
Ooh. Let me try that again. Take 2. I don't know what I like more. No? Okay, use the
It was
first take.
convincing. Yeah. Outside of your new girlfriend and new t-shirt, have you seen any movies or heard any
movie schmovies. I'm in love. Ow, ow, ow! In like.
And that is our episode. We want to thank Shane Cunningham for coming on and sharing his. He's here for the close. For being here and sharing his love with us, or his life.
We like to thank
Josh Groban.
Josh Groban.
It was an amazing interview.
Yeah, he can fly planes, as we know. You can find us on Twitter at Mike on Much and Instagram at Mike on Much. We've been a little shitty with updating our social media, but that is our New Year's resolution.
It's going to change.
So in
after
2016
January 1st, it's going to change.
Yeah.
Oh, you were going for that joke. I stepped on your punchline. Sorry. So all the artwork for the Mike on Much podcast is done by Jenna Gregory.
You can find her work at jennasdoodles.com. A huge thank you to Mounties for letting us use their song Headphones. A huge thank you to Spirits, R.I.P., Hamilton Band, for also letting us use their song.
The Mike on Much podcast is produced by Max Kerman, and I am your host, Mike Veerman. We will see you next week if we don't die on the weekend.